Hello everyone, my name is Mara, and the case that I'll be discussing today is about Ember Graham, who was only 6 months old when she went missing from Happy Valley, California in July of 2015. And just a quick reminder before I get started, that I always try to do the best research and get the most accurate information I can for every single case that I cover. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get into today's case. Ember Sky Graham was born on December 19th of 2014 to her mom, Jamie Graham, and her dad, Matthew Graham. Ember was said to be a happy, sweet baby that was very loved by her family. Ember was diagnosed with epilepsy and previously had been hospitalized for seizures. She would take anti-seizure medication twice a day. When Jamie was asked about her and Matthew's relationship, she said that there were times where things were really, really good. And then there were other days where she would come home and Matthew would say things like that he didn't want to be with her anymore and that she needed to move out. Matthew was also described as being very impulsive and erratic. His family did say, though, at this point in his life, he was trying to get his life on track and he had moved in with his cousin Sarah. In the past, he had gotten a ticket for drinking and driving, but he was almost done paying that off. And then sometimes every week or every other week, he would have Ember over for the night. At this point, Matthew and his cousin Sarah were living in a trailer. The door was broken, so it had to be opened with a screwdriver, and it said that the property was gated and they had guard dogs outside. So on July 2nd of 2015, Matthew had Ember over for the night. He said that he laid her down in her playpen around 10:30 p.m. and that he fell asleep just a few feet away from her. And then the next morning when he woke up, Ember was not in her playpen. I want to stop and say, too, there's a lot of inconsistency in his story. I think it's maybe because he had his story and then his cousin Sarah had her version of it. And then Jamie, who was not there when she went missing, had to try to figure out kind of on her own what exactly happened. At one point, he said he fell asleep only a few feet away from Ember. But then another one that I seen was where he said that he was sleeping in a back room and then he came running out and that Ember was not in her playpen. But at 5:26 a.m., Matthew does call the police. Police responded and Jamie said that she was hysterical when she arrived and that Matthew seemed upset, but that the way he was crying almost seemed more like he was just whining and that it almost seemed forced. Police did send out search parties, and as they were starting to interview everybody, the suspicion on Matthew just kept on growing because Matthew's stories were not adding up. Jamie said she was immediately running around like a chicken with her head cut off, everywhere that she could. She was scrambling around because her 6-month-old child is missing, and she was just there the day before. On July 2nd of 2015, Matthew went in for questioning. And by July 3rd, Matthew was named a person of interest, without evidence to charge him in Ember's disappearance so early in the investigation. They arrested him on a probation violation stemming from DUI and forgery charges because he had only completed 15 days of a 60-day work program. He also admitted that the night that Ember went missing, he was smoking marijuana. Authorities were able to get surveillance footage from the Happy Stop Market. It showed Matthew putting gas in his truck, and it said that Ember was with him and she was not in a car seat. When he left the store, he turned in the opposite direction of his home. He told police that he was driving Ember around because her anti-seizure medicine made her restless. Matthew said after he left the store that he made a U-turn to return home, but the video footage does show that Matthew did not pass the store again for about another hour. And when authorities asked him what he was doing in that hour, he said he could not remember. On July 7th of 2015, authorities announced ground searches would be suspended after determining there was no credible evidence supporting Matthew Graham's account that Ember was abducted by a stranger or by anyone else. Then on July 8th of 2015, while they were still gathering and analyzing evidence to give to the prosecutor's office, Matthew appeared in front of a judge for his probation violation and was released by the judge. The judge ordered him to wear a GPS monitor at the request of the LE and the Shasta County Probation Office. And on July 9th, a judge ordered the removal of his ankle monitor at the request of Matthew's public defender. He was ordered to report to his probation officer 7 days a week. On July 10th, a pacifier was found off Plantina Road in Ono, California. This is said to be a very remote area, And when they showed the pacifier to Jamie, that yes, it was Ember's pacifier, and they actually did end up doing a DNA sample on it, and it did match Ember's DNA. Then on July 11th of 2015, Matthew stole his mom's cell phone, some cash from her purse, and a semi-automatic gun. He then fled. Police put out a bulletin saying that Matthew was armed and dangerous. Matthew then stole a sedan at gunpoint, taking off up Interstate 5. But what he didn't know is that the car had GPS. The authorities were able to track him, and he was killed in a police shootout in Dunsmore, California. And a few days after that, they were able to find a backpack. This backpack had belonged to Matthew and is found about 250 yards behind the home that him and Sarah lived in, but it is said that nothing was found that gave him any more evidence. Jamie has said since the beginning their families had two different agendas. She said hers was to find her daughter and that his family was there to cover Matthew. She also believes that his cousin Sarah knows more than what she has admitted. But today, Ember would be 10 years old and she is still missing. What do you all think happened to 6-month-old Ember? If you remember anything or know what happened to her, I'm going to leave the number for the Shasta County Sheriff Office down below. Her mom, Jamie, is still looking for her and holding out hope. But thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you'll comment, subscribe, and I will see you all next time. Bye. Ember Sky Graham has been missing since July 2nd of 2015. She went missing from Happy Valley, California. She is described as a white female and she was 15 pounds. She's wearing a size 2 Kirkland diaper. Ember has epilepsy and previously required hospitalization for seizures. She needs to take anti-seizure medication twice a day. She is described as a Caucasian female with brown hair and brown eyes.